All right, welcome to the Fortify Your Data podcast. I'm joined today with Bernie Moreno. Bernie, you've had a very interesting entry into technology. I'm going to let you kind of give us just a quick backstory into where you got started, how you got to where you're at now, and kind of just where you're at, where you're playing in the technology industry today.
Sure. Yeah. So I really important part of the story is I've always been into technology. So I grew up in the critical 80s. That was my era. Man, does that make me old? No.
It makes you older than me.
Anyway, and in the 80s, I say the critical 80s because that's really when PCs were born.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea prior to that, you really didn't have access to computers if you were a kid.
Yeah.
But I grew up right when that started. And then you went from the 80s where PCs became a thing. The internet was just beginning. Then the internet blew up in the 90s. I lived in Boston, like we were just talking about before we started.
Yeah.
And in the late 90s, Boston was actually the big epicenter of the dot-com boom. That's where a lot of top-level domains happened. A lot of the plumbing for the internet was created in Boston because of MIT and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been really into technology, but I was also really into cars.
Yeah.
And so my life kind of went through this path of being in the car business. And then about 4 years ago, my youngest son, I have 4 kids, 3 of them, zero chance of ever being in the car business.
Okay.
None. One's an art therapist, the other one's into politics, the other one's a vet.
Okay.
And so my youngest came to me 4 years ago or so, he was 16, and said, that he wanted to think about being in the car business.
Okay.
Which I thought was great.
Yeah, you're like, wow, one of them.
But if you're into your business every day, you're really thinking about now, right?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about what does the future look like.
Sure.
And it really made me lift my head and go, what does this business look like in a generation?
Yeah.
Not in 2 years, because obviously I'm young, but would I be handing him a business that it would be doomed to fail?
Yeah.
I came to the conclusion that because of a lot of other factors we can talk about, that the car business was not going to be a generational business.
Yeah.
That he wouldn't. So then I would be setting him up to fail.
Yeah.
So what am I passionate about? What is he passionate about? We started talking about technology and different things that we liked, and so that's how we started the path. So I started selling my dealerships. Had 30 brands that I represented, 16 physical buildings, and now I have 2. And now shifted to working on technology. And what I saw in Boston in the late 90s was that the dot-com era really was, to be early was really important. I remember everybody saying in 2000 that technology businesses were dead.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Google went public 4 years later that people were like, oh, I guess it's still alive.
Maybe there's
right?
something to this. Yeah.
Maybe it's not over. And so we started studying blockchain and what are some applications that you could do with blockchain. Obviously, there's currency. That's one application, but I don't really know anything about that. I'm not an expert in anything to do with currencies. That's not something that I've been passionate about, been knowledgeable about. But as I studied blockchain, I said, well, I can really solve paperwork issues, trust problems, where you need to have a perfect record of transactions. Well, that's what currency is. And in my world of car dealerships, believe it or not, one of the biggest pain points is car titles.
Okay.
It's a huge painful process. So we said, what can we do there? Can we solve some problems? And that's what we created our company around. And we're building a platform where if you think about, you used to get you're too young. You used to get a boarding pass. Take my word for it. You used to get a boarding pass in the mail.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
Okay.
like if you were going to Chicago, you'd call a travel agent.
Sure.
They'd send you a boarding card in the mail.
Okay.
And that's how you get to the airport.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, I don't do that.
In fact, you don't even print it at home anymore.
No. Yeah.
It's on your phone.
Yeah.
So car title's in that original world, and
Yeah.
we're moving it to the world that exists today, which is on your
Sure.
phone. What that means is that I can sell you my car instantly by hitting a button. I can trade a car instantly by hitting a button. The dealer has the title right away. Banks have the title. They can move it between states. All that is what we're working on.
So there's a lot to unpack there, and I will say that I am not a car guy, but for a while I held on to a car, which was a Toyota Yaris. I had it for way too long because that car went from 0 to 60 in almost an hour.
Yeah, eventually.
So I'm like, this is great, man. This is where it's at. And then I had a real car, and I'm like, oh, they actually move faster? I could actually merge onto the highway? Wow. But and yeah, to that point, the car title experiences that I've had have been relatively painless, but I could see where it could get difficult. How do you think that's going to be in terms of getting that to be an industry standard? Because that's really, I mean, you have to get a lot of parties to agree that, yeah, you can have your title on your phone, right?
Sure. Actually, just one, the state.
Okay.
So what we have to do is convince 50 states,
Yeah.
maybe DC and Puerto Rico and Guam.
Sure, sure.
For
Okay.
good measure, to allow digital titles to exist.
Sure.
So they have a title system.
Yeah.
So we're not replacing that. What we're doing is we're developing a technology that allows, instead of the representation of the title being a piece of paper,
Yeah.
the representation of the title is digital and on your phone.
And
So the state, if the state allows that to happen, then you're in business, you're good to go.
so I know that Ohio accepted Bitcoin for taxes. So
Mhm.
that's obviously a good step in Ohio being a progressive state. Is that where you're starting then, since you're based in Cleveland, or I guess what's your plan of attack to get the states to accept that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like this is closer to you than me. Kind of like when you're in high school and you have your prospects
Sure,
for prom.
sure. Okay, okay, yeah,
You have your 3 or 4 that you think
Yeah.
pretty likely.
Yeah.
Three or 4 they're going to work on. So we have the same way with the 50
Okay,
states.
yeah.
And Ohio's in the top tier.
Sure, sure.
But there's other states that are very, very eager to do this. Here's why it's it will be a great business for you, at least I think it's a great business
Yeah.
for me, is that it saves everybody money. There's few things that you can do with government where there isn't somebody who feels one way and then there's an equal number of people that feel the opposite. In the case of what we're doing, it saves everybody money. The car dealer saves money, the consumer saves money, the bank saves money, the insurance company saves money, and the state saves money.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of getting them to the point where they're comfortable embracing technology and advancing the future and thinking about how to do things a little bit differently. That's really the only sales challenge there.
Yeah.
And I think with at least a half a dozen states, we'll be there this year.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
I guess what's the roadmap like then for Ownum? You know?
The path to world domination.
Yeah. Yeah,
is,
I'm interested, yeah.
is a handful of states this year.
Yeah.
All of them by the end of next year. Then we can do other things that are titled along the same lines, not real
Yeah.
estate, but cars, trailers, motorcycles, ATVs, boats, things that are
Sure.
like that. And then we can go international. We can do it in Mexico, South America, Africa, China, everywhere. Because this is a universal problem anywhere in the world.
Right. And do you think that you want to stay in the car title, or do you want to tackle other areas, or you think that that's just, hey, listen, this is what we're doing car titles?
No, so we'll start with car titles, and then, as I said, expand to other things like cars that are
Yeah.
titled, and then take that same chassis, anything that's vital records. Like when I sit here, I don't like to have a wallet.
Yeah.
I don't like to sit on a wallet.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So if you said to me, "Where's your driver's license?" I think it's in my car somewhere.
Right.
I probably shouldn't
Yeah.
tell people that I leave
Right.
my license in my car.
Larry, go
Delete
get
that.
it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But anyway,
Get his license.
Well, it's the wallet, right? But ideally, your driver's license should be on
Yeah,
your phone,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Wouldn't it be great? And by the way, it doesn't need to be your whole license. It depends on what you want. So for one of the things you can do with blockchain is I can say, just give me a barcode that shows that I'm over 21.
Right.
Sadly, I don't get carded.
It's hard for
anymore.
you to prove that, right?
Yeah,
It's hard.
right. Yeah, exactly. I went and bought champagne the other day for my daughter's wedding, and I go, "The guy, you're not going to card me?" He goes, "I can if you want." I said, "No, it doesn't mean to say no."
Yeah.
But so that's what you can do.
Yeah.
So imagine a wallet. You have your Apple Wallet. Imagine a wallet where you have all your vital records.
Yeah.
Your birth certificate, your college transcripts, your college degree, your certifications that you've taken, your driver's license, your passport, your car titles, all the things that you have in one central repository that you control,
Yeah.
that you have access to, that's an immutable record that the agencies all recognize. It's kind of crazy if I said to you, "Hey, let's head up to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a visit up there." What's your first thought? Where's my damn passport?
Yeah, where's my passport?
Right? Why don't we have that available
Digitally,
digitally, right? And what's more likely to be forged? A piece of paper or a system that's built on an immutable record that has access through barcode systems?
No, that makes sense. And I remember I was listening to you at I think you were giving a presentation over a year ago, and one of the use cases was, you have a young daughter going to a bar. You don't know the bouncer. He doesn't need to know her address, right? And that's on the credit, or that's on the credit card. That's on the ID. Yeah. So that is a use case.
Yeah. So one daughter got married a couple weeks ago. The other daughter went to a bar with a couple friends.
Yeah.
The bouncer actually said to them, "Give me $50 to come in," and they're like, "There's no cover charge." And this guy was a huge guy.
Yeah.
"Give me $50. So they gave him $50. It was like 4 of them. It was
Yeah.
$200. He goes, "Give me another $80. I'll kick the shit out of you."
Like actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
True story. My point is, that guy has her name and her address.
Right. Yeah, and that's the guy you want to have her name and address.
Right, a guy who literally is not joking. It's not like me and this. This guy's 300 pounds, giant guy saying, "I will kick the shit out of you if you don't give me more money." What do you do?
Yeah, that's actually more effective than ransomware.
Exactly. Well, that's analog ransomware.
Right. You don't have to like shepherd the people through getting a Bitcoin wallet to pay you. Right?
Exactly. So those types of use cases, but that happens later because what happens is for government, you have to show them that you can do things like car titles, and that the world didn't end, and then you can
baby
move
steps.
It from there. Right? Exactly. I mean, one of the things that John Husted, who's the lieutenant governor, is working on is a centralized, or not centralized, a consistent database for all state agencies so they can share data. Believe it or not, as simple as that is share. We're both government agencies.
Yeah.
You're a government agency, I'm a government agency, we don't share data. That's crazy. It's not like you're Michigan, I'm Ohio.
Right.
We're both in Ohio. We eventually report to the same governor, and yet sharing data doesn't happen. He's fixing that. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I think is the next real technology wave. Is those paperwork and process issues that we kind of put up with because just nobody came along and said, how do we fix that?
Yeah. So from and I'm not I'm certainly not like a blockchain guy. I dabble in everything, but cybersecurity and data security are really my core competencies. And so there's a lot of very palatable aspects to something that can't really be hacked or changed. With it having been said, are you familiar with GDPR?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so basically for anyone that doesn't know, it was something the UK passed to protect people's data, and it's really, I mean, it could be summed up as the right to be forgotten. That was one of the snippets out of it. California has passed legislation that has been dubbed GDPR Light. Yeah, it is and it isn't. But a key part of both of those policies are you can completely erase yourself. You have the right to own your identity and get rid of that. Blockchain's kind of the opposite of that, and I think that right now neither of these things are the standard, right? And that's sort of this weird like subculture of like this tech argument of, do you want everything to be on an immutable ledger? Do you want everything to be permanent? Do you want, because and to some extent, if something's on the blockchain, everyone on that blockchain can see that information or that data that's there.
Yes and no. So they can see that the data is there, but there's a public key, private key situation.
Sure.
So I know that there's data.
Yeah.
Like for example, in the currency world, you can see there's a human that owns 50 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And he bought 5 today.
Sure.
But you don't know who that person is.
Yes.
So unless you have the unlock code, so you have to have 2 keys.
Yeah.
Unless you're that person, you don't know everybody else. So I think my personal opinion on that is I think GDPR is more hurtful to data structures that don't use a blockchain type system, because if I'm in your database and GDPR is global data protection, right? So if I say I want you to delete, if I go to KeyBank where I have my accounts and say I want you to delete me from their systems, that causes a huge problem for them because now you have holes. How do they? You can't delete things. It's kind of like if I said, think of an Excel spreadsheet and there's 10 lines, and I say delete cell number 8. Yeah. Well, now that doesn't doesn't sum anymore. So deleting it is very difficult. With blockchain, you basically have that encryption and that anonymity, which is part of what some people don't like about cyber currency. Is that if I sent you $15,000 in a wire, there's 9 government agencies that know that I sent you $15,000 and they just get a phone call, right? Hey, what's this cash for? But if I send you 2 Bitcoin, nobody knows. Right. Nobody knows who owns
until I deposit to a bank account.
Until you deposit to a bank account.
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. Exactly. So I think that's the challenge. Is how do you solve GDPR? And I think to some extent blockchain solves that. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Because 50 years is what we've been building databases, basically ish.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a long time you can't just flush a system down and start over. But I think there's going to be a move to that for that reason. So I think GDPR helps the adoption of blockchain.
Well, I guess, and again, they can't get that data, but they still see that data's moved. I think that there's that insecurity about, well, I don't want somebody to know that my identity's moving around, or like, even today with like credit reports, people know when other people are looking at your credit report, what other mortgage agencies, and there's that alienation. And it's curious to see, like, it kind of goes back into, like, if you don't have anything to hide, why are you worried about everyone seeing your data, right? And I find that kind of struggle interesting.
Yeah, it's the if you want to see a really horrible movie, you can watch The Great Hack on Netflix.
Okay. I have not seen it.
It's I think a relatively sophomoric view of data.
Yeah.
I when somebody goes on Facebook,
yeah,
and says, "You stole my data."
Sure.
I didn't really steal your data.
Yeah. You offered it.
You're the one who posted it.
You're
right? It's kind of like
it's
kind of like if I take off all my clothes, I go, "I can't believe you looked at me naked." You're like, "Dude, you're the one who took off all your clothes."
Right.
So when you post all this stuff on Facebook,
yeah.
and somebody accesses it
yeah.
and uses it, it's not a hack. That's why I said the movie's got this weird nomenclature around it. And the same thing with Google, Amazon. I mean, data's where it's at right now.
Yeah.
But people often, I think the difference is that there has to be a bargain struck between the user of that data and the person who's providing it. Because right now it's a one-way street. So Facebook's selling our data, but we're not getting anything in return other than using our platform for free. There needs to be some sort of remuneration that goes back and forth, and I think you can do that and save those companies. But that's a little bit of a tangent. The point being, I think we're in a world where, again, being older, the same thing happened when the internet first started, where the idea where I am never going to put my credit card on a website. That's forget it. Today we do it automatically. We don't even think about it.
Your browser knows your credit card.
Exactly. It's automatically saved.
Yeah.
And if you go one step behind that, when I was really young, so I don't want to really age myself, there were people who wouldn't use credit cards at restaurants because the idea was, I don't pay with plastic, I don't pay with cash. Today you look at it and go,
who carries cash?
That seems super.
What happens if they give you coins? What are you going to do with them?
Exactly. No, it's funny because that's crazy. I mean, we work in a cashless world, but that 30, 40 years ago, the idea was that credit cards were this crazy thing, and governments were going to track you. Fast Pass, people didn't want to use Fast Pass because the government knows where they're at. I think that if you talk to most 20 to 30-year-olds, privacy, they have a totally different view on privacy.
I'm very comfortable having this GPS in my pocket.
Exactly.
Track me.
By the way, I think it's funny because every once in a while my wife will go, why does Facebook say, did you just visit Starbucks? What do you mean they're tracking me? The other joke I had the other day with somebody was, if 20 years ago I said, hey, I'm going to do something, I'm going to put a wire and a listening device in your house, and I'm going to hear everything that you're saying. You'd be like, what? You call the cops, right? Today you pay.
You pay for
somebody to do that. And then you brag about it. I got this cool device that listens to everything I say.
You talk to it. What's the weather like?
Exactly. It's like, what could go wrong? There's a multinational corporation listening to everything that goes on in my house. So I think there's that the world is just adapting to that.
Do you have concerns for data privacy?
I think what you have to do is have a government and elected officials that understand the guardrails that are required. I think left unchecked, anything is bad. Right? Like if you and I were jumping in my car and we said, is it okay for us to drive 150 miles an hour on 480? No. No.
For me,
probably not. No, the answer is probably not.
Yeah.
Should that be legal? Can anybody just drive any speed that they want, drive any way they want, on any road they want? The answer is no. There has to be guardrails. You have to drive within a certain speed limit. You have to drive on these roads. You can't go a different way on a one-way road. You can't cross a red light. We have rules that are established by government. I think the government has to figure that out. The challenge is that we elect elected officials who, and I love Lindsey Graham, but who brags about he's never sent an email. And they're the ones making those public policy decisions. So I think the answer is today we're probably okay, but we need elected officials that can come in and say, okay, we need these guardrails for that. Like you can use Michael's data within these guardrails.
Right.
I can't use your personal data. Like one of the things that actually is a little terrifying is, have you ever done Ancestry.com?
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So I've done it. Found out my mom was actually more French than she was from Spain. So we tease her about that. But anyway, companies owned by Google.
They use that. Well, they use that. The same with 23andMe. They're using that data for other things.
Exactly, which wasn't the bargain I struck.
Right.
In other words, when I bought it, they didn't say, hey, by the way, use this. We'll send you this cool information, and we're going to use it. And by the way, Google goes into the health business. They're going to all of a sudden call you and say, hey, listen, I can offer you health insurance for $200 a month.
Yeah.
They're going to call your buddy and say, we're going to offer you health insurance for $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
Why? You're both healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have your genetic makeup.
You have a predisposition for cancer, you have this, you have that.
That's probably one where guardrail. It's like,
Yeah.
No, because that's not the deal. That there is rules, due process,
Sure.
self-incrimination. You have to have guardrails there.
Yeah.
And right now what happens is we live in a hyper-partisan world, so it's all about evil this, evil that, and both people talk nonsense.
Yeah.
So we got to fix that.
Well, we're not too far away from the Fitbit that will be able to tell if you're about to die or not.
Sure,
And
but
should
that's
that
good.
and should that Fitbit tell you?
Yeah,
right?
but that's good, right?
Yeah.
Well, I joke all the time that says, hey, listen, not joke, this is actually a great business case. I wish I had the bandwidth to do it. You have the Fitbit, and what you say is, listen, you wear the Fitbit. In exchange for you wearing the Fitbit where I track your entire health data, I will give you 20% off on your health insurance.
Yeah.
And you may be sitting here right now and you get a message on your phone, you look at it and go, a message from Fitbit, visit your doctor immediately. You're like, what do you mean? I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And it sends you a message like, nah. Get in your car right now and come. Because it senses something, or it checked a pattern. I don't think that's bad.
No, I
As
don't
long
think
as
it is.
it's within a guideline.
As long as they're not saying, "Hey, give me $800 and I'll give you this juicy tip about your health," right?
Exactly.
Which is a
Exactly.
fear. That's a genuine fear. And when you look at like the big three of the people that have all our data, being Facebook, Amazon, and Google, I would argue that some of the things they're doing is clearly wrong and disingenuous. But at the same time, nobody read that terms and service agreement, and that did have an acceptable use policy that pretty much was vague enough to give them free reign.
Yeah, but again, go back to the concept of guardrails, right?
Yeah.
So when I was heavy in the car business and I owned a bunch of Nissan dealerships, if I gave you an ad that said $79 a month, no money down,
Yeah.
and you came in
Yeah.
and you said, "Where's my $79 a month?" Oh, it's not no money down. You got to pay this. You got to pay this. You got to pay this. At the end of it, it was $6,000.
Yeah.
The Attorney General would raise his hand and go, "No, guardrails. If you have an ad, it's a misleading ad."
Yeah.
Right? So if you have terms and conditions that are 97 pages long,
Sure.
that you'd have to be a law student to understand what the hell it says, guardrails.
Yeah.
You can have terms and conditions that are much easier to say, hey, X, Y, and Z, you should understand that, and do you clearly get it? Boom, and go. I think that's the problem, is they created these terms and conditions, quite frankly, in a time frame when most elected officials thought it was cute that Facebook allowed their teenagers to communicate with their friends.
Yeah.
And they said, what could go wrong with that, right?
Right.
And instead now they're like, oh my God, look what we created. And I also think, and listen, I'm a conservative Republican, but you can't have unchecked corporate power.
Yeah.
Because I remember when Google went public in 2004, their slogan was "Do no evil,"
Yeah.
and I think they've forgotten that, because I think there's some things that they're doing that are like, that's
Yeah, but that's like such a weird tagline, anyways. Like if you have to say "don't be evil,"
No,
like
it shows you what they were thinking of.
Right.
It shows you that they
Yeah.
realized then the
Yeah.
power of what they were about to do.
Sure.
Right, where in 2004 Google wasn't near the company it is today.
Nor was Facebook. Facebook wasn't even a
Facebook
company.
was just starting.
Yeah.
I wish in 2004 I worked
Yeah.
at, we talked about where I worked in Somerville. Cambridge is just a mile away.
Yeah.
Knock on Mark Zuckerberg's dorm room and here's $1,000. Here's
Yeah.
a loan. Don't take it from your roommate.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
But they didn't realize what they were. I think to some extent they did realize what they were creating.
Yeah.
And we have to have competition in tech.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's important.
how do you compete with Facebook? Right.
No, you got to create guardrails. You got to
Yeah.
create guardrails, and you have to watch the businesses that they're buying, and are they buying a business because it's additive, or are they buying a business to halt creativity? And to some extent, what they're doing now is buying businesses to halt creativity, which may be good for me.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm creating a tech company,
Sure,
I get
sure.
$1 billion payout. I'm like, hey, Facebook is great because I made $1 billion.
Yeah.
But did they halt something that could have actually created competition? I think if you go back to, we're sitting here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
The home of the first monopoly in the United States, right? Standard Oil.
Yeah.
And were those antitrust laws around concentrated market share or around power? I made the argument that was really an argument about power.
Okay.
And if you have too much power in a corporation, you've got to take a look at it.
What are the metrics to define power?
I think you could create some market influence,
Okay.
size, sheer weight. I think all those things. And when you're, Google, if you're a company like an Amazon and you have $150 billion in cash, that can buy a lot of influence. And
Sure.
is that good or bad for democracy?
Yeah.
right? I mean, again, an elected official is going to pay less attention to you if all you do is vote than if you give them campaign donations, money, right? And that's a little distorting. So I think in summary, I would say guardrails. We need guardrails. You can't have, there are people out there, especially in the crypto world, that are full-blown libertarians, right? We don't need a government, right? We don't
make the roads private.
Exactly. If I want to drive 200 miles an hour, I drive 200 miles.
Yeah.
I think there's an answer. Right. And then on the other extreme is probably
I'm a big John McAfee supporter, so be gentle.
No, well, the other extreme would be complete government control.
Yeah.
So I think somewhere in between is this idea of guardrails. Now, how big the guardrails, we can debate that, but I think that's the end of the day. Yeah.
Now, to just kind of bring back to blockchain for a minute to wrap up that bubble, there's a lot of, you talking with the crypto guys, there's this blockchain, not Bitcoin, and there's Bitcoin's the only use case. What are you talking about? Exactly. You can't have blockchain without Bitcoin.
Right.
And then there's the sentiment that a lot of blockchain projects can just be a database, and in fact should be a database.
Yep,
I think there's a lot of validity to that.
Yep.
And there's a lot of blockchain companies that came up because, hey, we found this buzzword, and that actually happened. I don't have an IoT sign up here anymore, but with IoT years ago, it was the same thing. It was everyone jumped on that.
Everything.
buzzword.
AI. AI now. Everything's AI.
Yeah. Hey, listen, those are all my buzzwords. So so I jumped on it too. But running a blockchain company, how do you self-assess? How do you self-assess that, like, hey, my company needs blockchain. It shouldn't just be a database. I'm not a scam. Like, not that obviously you're not, but like, how do you like assess yourself? Like, how do you measure that?
We don't really use the word blockchain much. Yeah. Much like most people don't use the word TCP/IP.
Yeah.
Because what does that even mean? Unless you're really into tech, you're like, I don't know what the hell that means, right?
Yeah.
And then people start going, how does it work? And I find myself going, well, data goes into a block, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why am I talking
you're talking about
this?
mining.
It's crazy. So I think is it Bitcoin only, and is blockchain only reference to Bitcoin? That to me, that's argument just to me a little bit annoying because that's so micro focused. I look at it more as a way to organize data. So rather than organizing data in a single database, you can organize data in a different way where you have multiple parties that are engaged that don't have to actually be in that same database, but rather can have a shared access to the same records, and it's immutable, right? That to me is the characteristics. For sure, because we live in a capitalistic world, anytime there's something new, people will exploit it as BS, right? You name it, it's been done. AI is now the new thing, right? Everything's in AI, right? Like if a computer adds 2 + 2, it used machine learning to come up with
Hey, that's intelligent.
How did it know? It's thinking for itself, right?
Right.
So you can make an argument that Excel spreadsheets were the original AI.
Sure.
A spell check, right? How does it know when you're about to type? But that's not really when you think about AI, that's not what we're talking about. So for me, I look at a threshold question is, do you have multiple parties in a transaction where there's not 100% trust in the system? Number one. Number two, do you need the record to be immutable? Number three, do you need to share data in a way that allows different parties in the system to have a different piece of it? And do you need encryption? Actually, we came up with a term called belted systems, which stands for a blockchain encrypted ledger that's distributed and executable. So if we use all those things have to be true. So you need your data encrypted in a blockchain sort of way.
Yep.
You need it distributed. You need it executable. Then this system works for you. If those things don't need to happen, just use the database. I've had people come to me and go, hey, we want to do X, Y, Z project. We want to do it on blockchain. I'm like, you don't have any of those criteria. It's a database. There's a million databases. Just use that, right? So that's how we look at it. On our side, on the title side, blockchain is probably, we have the top layer, the middle layer, and the bottom layer. Blockchain is kind of just a piece of where the data resides, but there's top layer, bottom layer, interfaces, all that stuff. So if you look at our whole technology system, the 15 coders that we have working on this right now, 2 of them are working on blockchain.
Okay.
The other 13 are just working on
like user interface.
All that stuff. Okay. So there's no such thing as a blockchain company, much as there's no such thing as a internet company.
Sure.
Right. So is Amazon an internet company?
I guess.
Well, I don't know. They have warehouses.
they're a tech company. But every company's a tech company.
Right. So they're just a retailer, right?
Yeah.
Do they use the internet? Yeah. But that doesn't mean they're an internet company, right?
Right.
So.
This podcast is an internet company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything, right? Your data storage
Yeah.
thing. You could say to a large extent the New York Times is an internet company.
Yeah.
You say, no, they're a newspaper. Well, how do most people get the data? A little funny story to give you how things change. Pulling into my house the other day, I only get the Sunday paper, and it's there, so I don't read it because by then I already knew it.
Right.
Right.
It's already on your Twitter feed.
It's already on my Twitter feed or on Cleveland.com online. And my son gets out of the car, grabs the newspaper, he comes in the car and he goes, "Why?" I thought that was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Here's a 21-year-old. It's like, why are you people still doing this?
I have the Sunday paper delivered to my house, and I can't get it to stop. I don't pay for it. I don't know how it gets there. I don't know why it's there. It's just every time I have to pick it up and throw it out.
Recycle bin.
Yeah.
So it goes from the driveway to the recycle bin, and the recycles will go back out there.
Right. Yeah.
That was my son's point.
Yeah.
If you just take out the recycles, like, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah. Like, stop. You've been wasting a little plastic bag around it, and I have to debag it. And why are you doing this to me?
Right. Because there's nothing in there that you haven't probably already read or heard about, right?
Yeah. No, that's a very fair sentiment.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of success in the car industry. You haven't opened up a Toyota Yaris dealership exclusively, which is weird because you'd think that you'd want to buy or you want to sell cars that are max worth $9,000.
Right, true.
But little go-karts. But you've had a lot of success recently with bringing Ownum to light, really bringing blockchain to Cleveland with Blockland. How do you measure yourself for success, and how do you define success? What's success for you?
Sure. Well, there's the personal side, the business side that I'm working on, and obviously I define it the way every good business owner defines that, right? Which is how we're making money and doing well and adding value. On the community side, it's really about, it all stems from a conversation. This whole Blockland thing for me personally stems from a conversation I had, and I'm sure you've heard, or may have heard the story, where about a year and a half ago, as I'm now saying, okay, we're going to launch Ownum and get going. I put together an amazing team of people. I say that they're dramatically smarter than I am. Hopefully they're not listening to podcasts because I don't want them to know that I think that, but they are.
Okay.
And the comment back was, Cleveland isn't the place that you build a tech company. And I looked at it and said, if that becomes the mantra, what are we going to become as a city? And I owe a lot of my success to this community. So my idea was, how do I give back to the community? And it's about how do we make Cleveland a tech-relevant city? A city that young people want to flock to, young people who grow up here want to stay, that they see opportunities. And it's not about blockchain specifically. In fact, I met with the funniest thing in this last year and a half journey that just makes me laugh every time I think about it. I literally talked to an elected official and said, well, this is a huge conflict of interest. I'm like, what? Well, you own blockchain.
Congratulations.
I do.
Yeah. That's great. I don't know why you're here talking to me right now, but that's fantastic. What are your private keys?
I don't know. I didn't realize I did. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's just this misnomer.
Yeah.
It's not about blockchain.
Yeah.
It's about how do we make Cleveland a relevant tech city. And if we said, hey, we're going to all of a sudden snap our fingers and tell the world Cleveland's a tech city.
Yeah.
What would the rest of the world say?
You're the Rust Belt.
Rust Belt, right? Like, what's wrong with you people, right? You're not a tech city. But if we can really have this narrow focus around blockchain, it makes the rest of the world go, oh, that's interesting stuff that's going on in Cleveland, and then that gets them in the door, right? It's that $79 a month Nissan lease, right? That's what gets them in the door to think, hey, what's going on in Cleveland? What's new and interesting? And then there's a whole conversation around just general tech and general entrepreneurship and things like that. The closest analogy is probably Pittsburgh with robotics.
Yep.
Where everybody understands, Pittsburgh does great in robotics. But if you're a tech worker in Pittsburgh, you're not necessarily, probably not a robotics engineer.
Right.
But it's just became this great tech town. And that's what it's about, young people, young at heart people, entrepreneur-minded people, creative people, innovative people, all coming together and think Cleveland is a great place to be. And we have some great assets. We have a great low cost of living, high quality of life. We have the lake, we have Metro Parks, we have Playhouse Square, we got great theater, we got great restaurants, we got 3 sports teams. When you add up all those things, it makes Cleveland be somebody to take a look at. So our conference was about that.
Yeah.
And I think we've started that conversation. I've been to places way outside of Cleveland, where people still talk about blockchain, Blockland, and the conference, and think differently about Cleveland as a result of that.
Sure.
And that's the whole objective, is just make the image of Cleveland be different. And you said Rust Belt. I like to think that we're at the core of the tech belt.
Sure.
So if you think about Pittsburgh, Detroit, Columbus, and us here in Cleveland, but we're the heart of this tech belt. And I think we can do that, because I think young people, like if you were going to do your company, and you said you lived in Boston, how was it cheap to live in Boston?
No. You kind of hang out with a bunch of other guys in an apartment.
Right. Because you have no money for anything else.
Yeah.
And then you didn't move to New York because it's even more expensive.
Yeah.
And how about San Francisco? San Francisco.
Right, yeah.
Forget it.
Right.
And by the way, you'd have to live like in San Luis Obispo.
Sure.
A 4-hour drive to San Francisco. Or in a closet.
Yeah.
And
some closets aren't so bad.
Some closets aren't so bad.
Yeah.
But that's the issue. And so I think we have a compelling story to tell. You can make a good life here. That's in the Midwest. People are genuine, great people, and you have a sense of community here. And I think the world just needs to understand that. And Blockland is just a way to kind of shine the spotlight on that.
Do you think that? So the first conference was done, it was real fast. It was like, hey, we're going to do this. Hey, it's here, right? It was like 6 months of planning, if I remember correctly. Like 4 months of planning. Do you think that you marketed it properly the first time in terms of what it was? Because I feel like a lot of the conversations you're having now are a result of people just picking up like, oh, Bernie just owns blockchain. Okay, let's go to Bernie's. Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's Bernie Moreno's Blockland. Like they probably thought it was like Bernie Moreno's Blockland LLC.
Right,
that's what it was called.
Right.
So.
In fact, there's one person, I forget his name, Bernie just like that says Blockland and Bernie Moreno Company.
Yeah, right. So
it's like no,
kind of. But
no, because the reality is it has to be a community-wide movement for it to work. If it's just me, I've said this at the beginning. I think the difference is, I totally understand where you're going with that, and I agree with you. And I think the difference was I had an idea in my head May of last year.
Yeah.
That idea from then to now is totally different, because one of the magic of Blockland is that it's no longer just my idea. Like if you look at everything that we're doing, probably 1% of it is my idea. Back in May of 2018, maybe 100% of it was my idea. And that's what's made it much better. Like for example, City Block. Like when I imagine City Block, I imagine a bunch of tech workers in one space.
Yeah.
What City Block really is today is about all kinds of entrepreneurs, any type of entrepreneur, anybody who wants to say, hey, I don't want to work for the man.
Right.
I want financial freedom. I want to go out and see what I can do.
Sure.
Which is, this burning desire to have this kind of American dream thing. But we put everybody together who's thinking that way in one center. And as a result of that, you get much more inclusiveness of people throughout Greater Cleveland. And in fact, one of the things that we've really adopted as our mantra on Blockland is that how do we benefit all of Cleveland? Yeah. How do we do this thing where it benefits all of our citizens? Not just, hey, we have 1,000 really wealthy people now that we didn't have before, checkmark success, but we still have all the same poverty issues that we had, or even worse, which is what's happened in every other city that's ever done tech. Pittsburgh's poor are just as poor as they were before Pittsburgh became wealthy. San Francisco, not even talk about that. That's extreme.
Well, once they all sink into the ocean, they have to come here, right?
Yeah, but it's a total disaster, right? Because that's the wealthiest and poorest city in the country.
Simultaneously,
It's crazy. Yeah. So what we've really adopted as mantra is, how do we become successful by lifting up all of Cleveland's existing population?
Yeah.
Not because we brought in people who now lift our averages up, but how do all people have access? And it's through entrepreneurship, support services, being really mindful of that. None of those ideas were mine. It wasn't like I woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to decide this.
Yeah.
This was because hundreds and thousands of people were involved and their voices got heard, and it's made the effort so much better. So this thing today is light years away from where it was when it was something that I had thought about. So when people say Blockland is Bernie, no.
Right.
Not at all.
Good alliteration though, Bernie, Blockland.
I know, yeah. I had to look up what Sam Allard meant when he Bernie from the block. I'd never heard that song before. My kids told me what that meant though.
It came to my brain though. That hive mind.
Exactly, but that's really what it's about. So it's really about anything that has to do with the end result, which is how do we make Cleveland a better community for all of us, become a place for opportunity, become a place where you want to invest, you want to grow, and is this creative, entrepreneur-centered, innovative city. To me, that's what Blockland means. What does that do with blockchain?
Yeah.
Right? And again, it goes back to, we're just really relevant in the blockchain space, which is what gets us attention. So if you go to DC, Austin, Columbus, Cincinnati, and you talk about Cleveland, you know what they say? Oh, they're doing a lot of cool stuff in blockchain. Yeah. So it's got our attention. That's the piece, that's where blockchain fits in. Yeah. It isn't about turning every company into a blockchain company in Cleveland.
It's bringing it to all the schools.
Exactly.
Everyone's going to learn blockchain today.
But wouldn't it be horrible if all of a sudden, and by the way, it's just happening, we're having a STEM convening in October. Yeah. International group that's coming here to Cleveland is going to be talking about how we can use this kind of stuff to transform technologies, and how do you start teaching kids about these types of things early.
And one of the things I like about that is, as a product of that, it also gets them interested into other pieces of technology, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that the blockchain, specifically the cryptocurrency landscape, but also the blockchain landscape, is going to look so profoundly different in 5 years that learning it now is almost as useful as all the firewall knowledge I learned, 10 years ago, because none of those firewalls existed.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, nobody thought, quite frankly, 20 years ago, nobody thought about cybersecurity or anything about it.
No,
at all. Zero.
No one had a budget for it.
You didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you would send everything out an email. Like I just got, before I walked in, I got like 9 emails from somebody whose emails currently, obviously hacked. Here's a proposal, please click. And you, 9 years ago, you'd send emails about everything. Hey, wire me money. Here's my account number. Here's my social.
I've been a Nigerian prince before, and
exactly.
You haven't responded to any of my emails.
Exactly.
This has been
so those things are I got a friend of mine who's in a retail business got an email from one of his clients, like one of his clients, said ship me $80,000 worth of product to this address. Here it is. Boop, boop, boop. They did. Yeah. And it would have been lost had not been for the trucking company that says, wait a second, this is a little suspicious. Why are you shipping $80,000 worth of computers to this organization that's located here to a different address? That doesn't make sense. It's like, holy shit. It turned out they were phishing emails started, blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff's real for everybody now. Sure. And then we were joking with some friends over the weekend about now the new one is the Bitcoin you've been checking porn email. Yeah. That was hilarious. I always think it's funny when the people get worried. It's like, why would you be nervous about that?
Well, and especially because it's like, we'll show them what you were watching. It's not that what you're watching. Like, we'll show them the exact video. And all of a sudden you see ransoms getting paid.
People starting to get nervous.
Friends are calling me like, so how do I start a blockchain? Like, okay, well hold on. What do you need one for, buddy?
Exactly. No, it's nothing.
Yeah, I'm really into investing now. I just need.
Everybody's buying 1/10 of a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So that's how do we protect ourselves and become smarter?
Yeah.
And again, teaching that next generation of kids from early stages, and we can do that in Cleveland. We can develop a great workforce in the future. Think about how do you deal with all these disruptive technologies, which is what this session is in October. If you're an educator, think about how hard that is, right? Because today, blockchain, machine learning, AI, human-machine interfacing, 5G. What are we going to be talking about in 5 years? Yeah. Right, in 5 years, we're going to watch this podcast and laugh at both of us. These guys are the crap, right? Because today, all that is totally different. It doesn't mean you were stupid or bad. Right. It just means you have to keep up.
Yeah, and it moves faster and faster.
Yeah. And as you get older, you start thinking that you don't have to keep learning. Yeah. That's what I espouse to people my age and older, which is there's nothing in the human brain that says you can't process new information. You got to stay on top of this stuff.
Well, when you get to be my age, it gets tougher. So you'll see.
Well, there you go. No, but you have to keep. You have to keep it.
Yeah,
up.
You have to.
Otherwise, you're dead.
Yeah, for sure. And so, there's an impressive thing I've noticed is that you've been able to. Obviously, you made a nice exit from the car industry to some extent. Obviously, you still have 2 dealerships. You also have built Blockland and then simultaneously sidestepped a little bit. You're still involved, but you're letting the community kind of run it.
That's key,
right? Obviously, you're running Ownum. What else do you want to do? Like, what else do you want to accomplish? What's next?
Yeah, for me, my daughter got married 2 weeks ago, so I want to accomplish being a grandfather.
Yeah. Okay.
So hopefully she's watching this and it inspires her. She gets so mad when I say that.
All right.
But that for me is a priority. I spent my formative years, no regrets, building wealth and that type of thing. And now that's why people say, do you want to be in political politics? That's funny. Because literally, I want to enjoy my life for the next 30, 40 years and that means doing the things I like.
You don't have enough gray hair, man.
No. That's what people say. Do you want to run for this? I want to be able to jump on a plane and go to the Bahamas because it's nice down there.
But to be fair, you do have a lot of political stances.
Oh, I do.
Right?
But everybody should. You should have political stances. That doesn't mean that you want to be a political.
That's what everyone thinks.
Yeah. But that's silly because being, one of the things that being a good citizen is you should be active. And I talk to so many people, I don't get into politics. That's crazy. It doesn't, again, you don't have to be an elected official or a campaign person, but you should care about your democracy. Because elected officials do pay attention to people who are engaged, and you can influence that. All of us can. And for example, not to be totally crazy tangential, but this whole gun debate, damn, we can't say this is how many magazines a gun can have. I mean, what gun do you need to have 100 bullets in it? That doesn't mean I'm going to take your goddamn gun away.
Right.
But do you really need 100 bullets at one time?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, do you have that kind of ADD? Are you in that kind of a hurry? We're like, no, I want to shoot 100 bullets. Exactly.
There's a lot of deer out there.
And by the way, are you going to eat a deer that has 100 bullets in it? It strikes me you get lead poisoning.
It's that zesty.
Right. So can't we just say, now, by the way, then the other argument is that won't solve one gun. True. Locking my door isn't going to prevent intruders, but it does make you a little safer, make it a little bit harder. So can we do that? Can we have some types of guns that you say, it's kind of like porn, PG,
right?
R,
right?
Not R.
Yeah.
Can't we say with guns that says, okay, that gun, I mean, there can't be some common sense that says that one probably is out, right, without infringing anybody's rights? Can't we have universal background checks that says, hey, and by the way, if you're crazy, maybe you shouldn't have a gun right now?
Right.
So those are things that people could advocate for without calling this person name, calling that person name, or going crazy.
Yeah.
And also just keeping the pressure. That doesn't mean that you want to be a politician.
Yeah.
It means that you want to be a good citizen.
But you want to be a politician.
I want to be a good citizen. I do not want to be a politician at all. I want politics. That requires a certain. Every job requires a certain skill set.
Yeah.
And being a politician requires a skill set that I do not have.
Okay. No, that's fair. It's just,
namely patience, a filter, a tolerance for schmooze.
Yeah. I feel it. But
and a tolerance for things not to happen. Because think about that, right? I mean, some of these things have been talked about for 50 years. Can you imagine talking about the same shit for 50 years?
And still kind of not get there.
Lord.
Yeah.
I said that a year ago at Blockland. I said, or City Block. If we're talking about City Block, this entrepreneurial center, in 5 years, it won't be me talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it's either going to be built next year or soon thereafter, or I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about the same thing over and over again, which is what happens. I was at this, so I hang out with a lot of liberals too.
Okay, yeah. Well, you have a pretty moderate gun stance.
Yeah, but I was with, so I was in Martha's Vineyard, so the haven of full liberalism.
Yeah.
And there was a big senator that was there speaking. This guy's been in office for 55 years.
Yeah.
I think to myself, could you imagine?
Your entire life.
55 years, your entire life is all you talk about. Like, and this is the most important election in our history. It's like, you've actually literally said that probably 14 times. Like, how do you still do that?
Some people live in that.
Oh, they
love it.
Thing. They love it. It's their thing.
Yeah.
And it's so if we have good citizens, though, good citizens lead to good politicians. Not me. I want to be a good citizen. Rally people to be good citizens, and that will lead us to have good elected officials.
Okay. And as a strong Gary Johnson, John McAfee supporter, am I a good citizen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're engaged, the thing is, a good citizen isn't about people who agree with you. Good citizens is people who have a point of view.
Yeah. And
you should defend your point of view and advocate for that point of view. Absolutely. Yeah. We shouldn't allow other people to put us in buckets. Like when people say all the time that to me that, what are you doing for this man community? I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
I'm doing something for the whole community, and it's going to benefit. I'm not going to single out and say, okay, well, can I see your ancestry.com? When you're born, how much Spanish you speak?
Yeah.
Right? You're in. Right?
Yeah.
We had a threshold of 21%. You're at 20. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I think people, this idea that we pigeonhole each other is crazy.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that, but anyway.
No,
we went way off.
I like
off
that.
the rails.
That was like,
sorry about that.
For a minute, it was like, you're obviously running for political office.
Oh, clearly.
And then, we went completely off the reservation there. So, I mean, I really that was the bulk of what I wanted to get into. I'm fascinated by, your successes in particular, because they're diversified, and you tend to look at things, I think, in a very pragmatic way. So, like I said, I appreciate your candor and answering all my questions.
I think the biggest thing is for entrepreneurship is you have to look at always the optimistic part of things and not the negativity, because that negativity kills all ability to be an entrepreneurship. To be an entrepreneur, I say all the time that being an entrepreneur means and recognizing that you're going to get kicked in the gut on a regular basis, and you can't let anyone, anything, or any circumstance stop you. That's the thing. Kind of like you said at the beginning, is this kind of a thankless job. If you're focused on all the reasons people tell you, all the things, being mediocre and being giving up are super easy. That is the easiest thing to do. Being persistent, being dogged, being out there, putting yourself out there, never giving up, that is hard work, and that's where entrepreneurship comes in. That's the whole thing. When I came to Cleveland 15 years ago, I walked into that dealership, and literally the salesperson who greeted me said, people in Cleveland don't buy Mercedes. Just a blanket statement. Which, by the way, a lot of Clevelanders would have agreed with. Because
they're all just buying these Toyota Yaris.
They buy Toyota Yaris. I met Michael. He only does. I never hear him talking about Mercedes. And instead, he looked at it and said, well, you know what? No, I don't buy into that. And created the largest Mercedes dealership in the entire central United States in North Olmsted, Ohio. In fact, I went to Mercedes headquarters one time, and this guy from Germany came in, number 2 guy, Daimler, and he turned to the CEO of the USA and goes, "Where is North Olmsted?" Because, what is this little puny-ass town that I never heard of? How can it be selling that many cars? Where is this?
We got them all.
Right? Is this another name for Boston? Is this another name for New York? Is this Chicago? Where the hell is this? That's a city outside of Cleveland. That's Cleveland?
Right? Ohio? That's United States,
Exactly. Where is Ohio? Right? But that's mindset, right? And you just have to have that mindset. There's one thing that people who want to be entrepreneurs can get out of that is never, ever, ever give up, ever. Because that's easy. You don't need to be brilliant to have persistence. In fact, John Donovan is so funny because he's the CEO of AT&T, spoke at our conference. He's coming back this year. He said that at the conference, because Beth Mooney is the CEO, chair of KeyBank, said, "Can Blockland succeed?" And I'm like, oh shit, right? He says no. curtains. Cut the mic. And he thought about it, and he gave this great answer, and he said, all the reasons why it could. He said, but this thing is all going to hinge on persistence and not brilliance. And I said, perfect.
We work hard here, not smart.
That's great. That defines me. Right. So I think that's what that's really, isn't that what Cleveland is? It's great determination. That 50 years ago maybe the river burned and Cleveland's over. No, and I think there's a feeling that's happened over the last 4 or 5 years throughout Cleveland that Cleveland's gotten a lot more esprit de corps, a lot more cocky. Which is in a good way, than it was self-deprecating when I got here.
We went from Boston. Yeah, Boston. Most egotistical.
Oh my God! Not that anybody in Boston. Boston is the greatest, right? And we don't want to necessarily be like that, but we also don't want to be so self-deprecating, right? I think we've got some good progress, and that makes a big difference because that's important in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, for sure. So now we have a little bit of time for you to plug anything you want to plug. I assume Blockland.
So December 8th is a Sunday. It's all about learning that day. So we're going to have a real focus on you leave that day Sunday and you learn something.
The other days are partying.
No. The nights are for partying. It's like South by Southwest. And then Monday and Tuesday is a focus on blockchain, obviously, but in the context of how it fits into other technologies, right? So we have some great speakers. John Donovan's coming back, CEO of AT&T. They're doing all kinds of really cool things with technology. Then we're closing out, this year what we're doing is the closeout keynote. We didn't have one last year, and we got a lot of feedback that they wanted that, we'll close it, and we were so lucky. Big plug to Amy Brady at KeyBank. She convinced Thomas Kurian, who's the CEO of Google Cloud, to come speak. Huge ask, huge get. So Amy, thank you. And so he closed out Tuesday. And then we also, thanks to Andy Jones at MCPC, took the BizTech conference, which would have happened 5 weeks before Blockland, and we attached it to be the third day of Blockland.
Which is a cybersecurity focus.
Total cybersecurity. We're microscopically away. We will have somebody from the FBI speak as a keynote on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Really close to getting the perfect person from the FBI to speak on this topic on Wednesday morning. So fingers crossed. We got a lot of push there. And then Wednesday will be total cybersecurity focus. The whole deal, which touches everybody, right? Everybody, that's a topic for everybody. And that will be probably more Northeast Ohio focused than it will be general.
Well, it's BizCon right?
Because it's BizCon, right? Exactly. Right. So that's it. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 amazing days of technology, and then other thing I'm plugging is we're going to have a presence at South by Southwest in a big way. Yeah. Plugging Cleveland. Okay. And so we're going to have something called the Cleveland Rock House. Slogan for the benefit of all, and we're going to have some really cool things in March at South by Southwest to really raise the level of attention that Cleveland gets from the rest of the community.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we got some cool stuff going on. And I think to anybody, Blockland's an open platform. We have this Facebook page where we share a lot of great articles. Yep. And I think if you have an idea, you think that something should be done, there's no approval. It's just, if you have an idea, my answer is always, well, do it. Yeah. Like if somebody says, hey, why don't you get this guy as a speaker? I'm like, yeah, get him. Don't give me tasks. So if there's ideas for speakers or things that we can do better, or hey, you should have this at the conference, you should do that. Yeah. This is what we think about City Block. All of those things, we need all the help in the world we can get.
Sure. Yeah. Email Jackie Sanders.
Exactly. You know it. You know it.
Never leave a meeting with an action item.
Exactly. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Fantastic.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was the Fortify Data podcast, guys. Thanks.